when you're in that transition phase, and I think going to audit isn't a bad thing. And I tell, somebody got on my case once, oh, you didn't tell me so-and-so, they went to a clinic and they didn't have success and they didn't like it. And they blamed me for not, in effect, bad-mouthing the clinician before they went. And that's something I won't do, because my philosophy is you can learn something from everybody. Sometimes what you learn is you don't want to do it that way.
Right.
And that's fine. But, you have to be open enough to learn.
This podcast is dedicated to the celebration and preservation of the working Australian Shepherd. Your Aussie is descended from a proud and amazing lineage of hard-working ranch dogs, identified and cultivated primarily in the Wild West. Contrary to the breed name, the Australian Shepherd is actually an American breed success story. Only in America can a blue-eyed, scruffy dog rise from the dust of the American ranch to become one of the most popular breeds in the world today. The Aussies' beauty, brains, and incredible work ethic and almost empathic connection with their human charges make them unforgettable and pivotal members of the family. My goal is to help you understand this amazing breed, learn more about their heritage and their physical and mental needs so that together we can preserve the working Aussie by encouraging better breeding and better vetting of future Aussie owners, ultimately keeping Aussies with their families and out of shelters. Welcome to the Instinctive Australian Shepherd. This is Jackie Tinker. Welcome to the Instinctive Australian Shepherd. My guest today is Kathi Schwengel from the Milwaukee area of Wisconsin. Kathi, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Jackie. I'm happy to be here.
Cool. I'm really excited to talk to you today. Kathi and I share some similar. I met you at a trial in St. Louis, Purina Farms, I believe, right?
Yes.
Yes, that was 2-3 years ago. It was quite a while, wasn't it? Yeah, I think it's been
quite
3.
a few.
Yeah, so I don't think they've even had one for the last year or two. So anyway.
That was my grand debut in the post-advanced arena.
Oh, yes. I still haven't done that yet. So you're way ahead of me on that. So the post-advanced, for those of you guys that don't know, in the Australian Shepherd herding dog, stock dog world, it is after you get your advanced titles, you can go into post-advanced, which is a course set up in a 6-acre field. And a lot of times they don't have fences, or they'll have some fences, but not all the fences. So your dog really has to control the stock pretty far away from you. So it's quite a challenge. And it's really neat to watch dogs doing that. So anyway, if you ever get a chance to watch one of those trials, it is awesome. There's my plug for post-advanced. So how did you talk to us about how you got into Australian Shepherds, specifically working Aussies? Maybe tell us the journey there.
Well, as a kid, I was really into herding dogs, even though I had mixed breeds as a child, but never a purebred herding dog, and none that I ever worked with, because that was out of the realm of possibility as a child. But I always had these dreams that, someday I'd have a working dog, and actually I would move to Ireland and, live on this little farm by myself with my dog. And well, the dog part of that worked out, but not the rest of it. I met Aussies for the first time at the stable that I was riding at. And the gal that owned the stable raised Aussies. And there were 2 in particular that I just loved. Wallace Simpson, who was this little blue girl who was phenomenal. And then Africa, who was also blue, and makes me wonder why I like blue dogs now, because every time without fail that I walked into that stable, she would come out of nowhere and heel me at least once. And I don't know if that was just her way of saying she loved me, or she thought maybe I didn't belong there and I needed to leave. In any case, I really wanted a Wallace Simpson puppy. I did not end up with one, but my first Aussie was out of those dogs. And he was actually a national stock dog registered Aussie. So trying to get him then registered ASCA was a crazy, crazy time of trying to track down pedigrees. Because back then, I think National Stock Dog, all they did to register your dog was write the information on an index card and throw it in a box.
Right.
So, but he was, and I did not have stock when I got my first Aussie. I will freely admit that I came in the backwards way. I got the dogs and then I got the livestock.
Mm-hmm.
And he was a tough old dog. He's the dog that I wish I had now, because knowing everything that I know now and having grown in my training, I could have done so much better by him. I think we finally got some started. Well, we tried ducks once. He pretty much threw them out of the take pen and then came charging out after him and held him down by the neck, which I'm not sure we want to put that in, but obviously the judge thanked me and asked me if I could get my dog. And I'm like, I'm trying to get my dog. So we never did ducks again. And sheep, he got his started sheep title when he was 10. And that's as far as we went. He was my first trial dog. He was very strong, very instinctive, but I didn't know what I was doing. And so it was a very hard learning situation for me. And as I said, with not having livestock of my own, I had to find places where I could go and train him and work him. And but he was a pretty cool little dog. And then from him, I went kind of the opposite way and went into the more versatility bred dogs and tried my hand at agility and conformation and a very little bit of obedience, because I just can't be obedient. And I find it,
you and I and Aussies have something in common. It's not obedience.
They didn't like it. I didn't like it. I finally did.
Agreed.
I think I finally got a CD on one dog. And that took a lot of years.
See, that's kind of why I like Rally better, because it's a lot looser and not as rigid as obedience. So I get it.
Somebody told me I should try Rally, and I'm like, I'll stick with stock now.
Yeah.
But and I, my heart and my love has always been in the stock dogs and working stock. Mm-hmm. And so then I segued into the dogs I have now, which are more of the, straight line working bred, and oh my, what a re-education I got.
It's a little different, isn't it?
It's a lot different. And, not saying anything bad about the dogs I had, because I loved them all dearly and they all had their, shining moments, and some were stronger than others. But the difference in drive is remarkable. When you first, and I have friends who are in this situation who have, they haven't had this working bred dog yet, and then they got it and they're like, oh my God, what do we do with this?
Yes.
It's just amazing to be in the driver's seat with a dog like that, even when you don't know what you're doing and you realize that you're in this Ferrari and you have no brakes and your steering is really wonky, but it sure is fun.
It sure is fun. And I like that analogy of a Ferrari without brakes, because they're so tight, they're so precise, their instinct is so nice, and it's just ridiculously amazing, these dogs, what they do just from this inner knowing that you don't teach them. But then if you don't have the brakes on them, it can be quite a ride, that's for sure.
Yes, it can. Or if the autopilot kicks on and they think they don't need you.
Oh, yes. That never happens with Aussies. What are you talking about?
Never.
Yes. I've gotten into those situations where I'm doing something and then I'm like, hey, knock that off. And the dog looks at me like, excuse me, this is what you told me to do. So you step off and be quiet. I'll fix this. Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Or you're doing something and you're busy doing something and you had your dog out there and all of a sudden you've got livestock moving past you and you look up and the dog looks at you like, well, I was bored. I mean, I needed to do something.
You wanted
You're
these,
over
didn't
there
you?
fixing a fence. I'm going to go get these sheep. Okay.
You needed these here, right? Oh, yes. Working Aussies, they're something else, that's for sure. And the energy level. And I think a lot of people get into it not having a clue what they're getting. They're not an easy dog to raise, I don't think. A lot of people look at these Aussies and, I'll say this on every podcast if I have to get people to listen. But, just because that dog is such a cute puppy, you have no idea that little thing can turn into, what was that movie, The Gremlins, where they were these cute little fluffy things, and then at night, or they got water on them, or I can't remember what it was, but at night they turn into little devils or something.
Don't feed them after midnight and don't get them
that's
wet.
it.
I think those are the 2 rules.
Yes. So an Aussie will be like one of those cute little things that you got wet and fed at the wrong time, and all of a sudden they can be just a handful.
Well, now, going back to my first Aussie, Flynn, I had no idea what I was getting into when I got him. And the gal that I got him from, unfortunately, she, as long as you could pay her for the puppy, it was the best puppy in the world for you.
Right.
And even though he did kind of pick me out of the litter, most of my dogs have picked me for one reason or another. I was not prepared because he was those old working lines.
Mm-hmm.
And his drive, his intensity, his protectiveness over me and what he figured was mine, all of those things were not what, I had seen in her dogs just hanging out at the stable.
Right.
And so that was a big, I always said it was a good thing that I got him, because even though I hadn't been used to that kind of dog, I did know how to handle him. I think if someone else had gotten him, it wouldn't have gone as well.
Yeah.
And he was very opinionated. The first time I made him ride in a crate in the vehicle, we got to where we were going and I let him out and he got out of the crate. He came over, he stood in front of me. He jumped up, nipped me in the stomach, and then walked away. That's like, oh, so you didn't care for that ride. And he never went back in a crate in the vehicle again.
It's funny because I agree with you. I have a dog like that too. If someone else had her, I'm sure it would not have been a good situation. But those old dogs, well, I guess my current ones do. My first Aussie was like that. If you treated her like a dog, she was highly insulted. If you put a leash on her, she looked at you like, I am not a dog. What are you doing? She just was very highly insulted if you treated her like just a regular old dog.
They do have an overload of personality.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and highly opinionated.
Yes.
So you got into working dogs again, and then you backed into it, like many of us have done that as well. I'm in the same boat. I got back into Aussies as an adult and got the sheep and the cows and the ducks and all that. So at what point did you end up getting your own stock?
Oh boy. Well, when I was working with the versatility lines, I ended up getting sheep and renting a farm from a friend of mine. So, we lived in town. We had a couple acres in town, and then outside of town, she had like 5 acres and a barn, and I planted some sheep there. So every day it was, go out to the farm and do chores, and then it was try to work the dogs, but you know how that is sometimes. Yeah. If it's something you're rushing to do after work, it doesn't happen.
Yeah.
So I had that situation for probably about 5 years, maybe. And my husband wasn't really a dog person. He did grow up on a farm. They had a dairy farm. he wasn't really anxious to get back into any kind of farm life, I think, but I finally wore him down. And so about 16 years ago, I think, we bought the place we're in now. And so then it was sheep and cattle and occasionally ducks, which I hate. So
you
they're
and
not
me
here
both.
very often.
Yeah.
They are just messy.
Nasty.
I mean,
they're just nasty.
there where the word foul did originate, I'm sure of it.
I am sure of it as well. I am raising the ducks for Nationals 2021 Nationals. So I have 175 ducks right now.
I saw that and I questioned your sanity immediately.
Yeah, I was like, hey, can I just do the sheep or something? I don't want to do the ducks. But sheep was taken and I'm low man on the totem pole, I guess. So
tell you, we have chickens now and they are so much nicer than ducks.
Oh, I love I have chickens too. I love my chickens. They're so nice. But I don't really herd them. I mean, they don't really herd that well.
No,
so.
No, they don't. But occasionally the dogs think they need to be moved around.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Actually, Finn, he is quite fascinated with the chickens.
Uh-huh.
And they'll do that thing where the hens will like squat down and put their wings out a little bit and just kind of stomp their feet. And I don't know if that's when they're being threatened but Finn thinks that's just great. He goes up there and there's two hens in particular that'll do that. And then he'll just stand there. He's like, I got it.
I caught it. Yeah,
which kudos to him. He doesn't actually grab it. So that's nice.
Yeah, good boy. So, do you have any cool stories or memorable memories that kind of warm your heart when you think about dogs working stock?
What do I use them for?
Yeah,
daily?
what are some typical chores and things that you do with your dogs? So now that you have stock and what are your chores look like?
This time of year, it's mainly keep them off of me while I'm feeding.
Yeah.
Because they're on hay and the bred ewes are on grain. So I need a dog that's going to come out there and push everybody off the wheelbarrow and just stay away from me so I can get the feed out. And that's their main chore this time of year, which is invaluable because yes, I have been pushed into the feed trough on more than one occasion when I did not take a dog out there.
Yeah, every now and then you're like, oh, I don't really want to get all wet and muddy, so I'm going to try and do without a dog, and then you instantly regret it.
Yep, you're in a hurry, and next thing you know, you're like a turtle on its back in the feed trough thinking, I am so glad nobody's out here with a camera.
Yes. Well, sheep are, for those of you that don't know, you see these sheep and they're woolly, beautiful, white, fluffy cotton balls on a hill somewhere, that's what they do. But when it's feeding time, they're more like wild hogs because they'll just run you over. They're mine anyway. And I think training sheep that are even worse, but they be kind of pushy and obnoxious when you're feeding them. So you definitely need a dog when you have sheep for sure.
Yes, extremely obnoxious. There's, and talking about that, there's one story that comes to mind now. The first time when I first got into sheep, if something was going on, I would call the vet, which I do a lot of my own vetting now, so that doesn't happen. But I remember having a vet come out and we had I think we had like 5 or so sheep in a probably 16 by 50 pen. And we needed to get out 1 or 2. And I brought out one of the dogs. I'm trying to think of what dog it might have been at that point. It was probably Rowan. And the vet was kind of like, oh, kind of giving me the big eye, like, oh, that's not going to work. This isn't going to go well. And bing, bang, boom, we got the sheep sorted out that we needed. And I, when I'm done with the task with my dogs, I tell them that'll do. And it doesn't mean that we're, done working. It means we're done with what we're doing. Just come here and chill for a second. And I told her that'll do. And I walked her through the pen. And the sheep can read that in a dog when they shut that prey drive down, obviously. And so, they settled and they let us walk right through the pen. And because she wasn't fussing with them, we got out the other side. And when we were all done, the vet looks at me and he says, I don't believe what I saw. He says, because there's not, you have to realize in this area that I'm in, there probably aren't very many people who actually use dogs with their livestock. There's a lot of dairy farms. They tend not to use dogs, even the beef producers here, and the sheep people consider using working dogs as having sheep for bait. But anyhow, so he was quite amazed at watching the dog. He said usually if he's ever been to a farm and they brought a dog out, all that dog did was chase the livestock around, and the livestock was really afraid of the dog. And it just made such an impression on him. And I thought that was kind of cool because, that's what I strive for with my dogs is, this calm, quiet, confident control. And when people can see that who aren't used to seeing it, and it makes an impression on them, I think that's a pretty cool thing right there.
I agree with you 100%. And, those of us that use dogs on a regular basis, that is a common thing that we do, sort sheep off or walk through a pen and teach the dogs to chill out. And I think it's cool that the sheep and the dogs have such a great communication that they know when that prey drive is turned off and they aren't running away from them. When mine come up to eat or whatever, and the dogs just, they're not working, they're on a that'll do command, they can walk through the sheep and the sheep don't move or anything because they know it's not time to move. But then when I ask the dog to move the sheep, they know, the communication there is just amazing. And those animals that are dog broke or worked by a good, confident dog are so much easier to manage, even probably for your vet. The sheep weren't, trying that they were going to be killed. They were, probably a lot calmer than people who have wild sheep.
Right. Or sheep that are in a pen having humans try and catch them without a trained dog.
Yeah. Sheep can be really
Which is also fun.
Yeah.
They can get a whole lot crazier then.
I just bought 4 sheep from somebody, and they're registered sheep. And I was trying to get into the registered sheep game there. And they were bragging about how wild their sheep were. Like, oh, my sheep are really wild. And I thought, why? And it's so hard on the sheep because when they ran them into the chutes to load them out, oh my gosh, they thought they were being killed. They were so panicked. And it's funny because those 4 are finally I had to keep them in a really tall, secure pen for about a month because they were just, even when I came in, they were just wild. But now they were bound. Yeah, I was scared because I thought, oh no, they're going to run off and I'll have lost all that money I spent on registered sheep. And they're funny. Now they'll let the dogs work them. They're not, tame by any stretch like my other ones. But they're so much calmer and it's so much better for them and safer for them. Because when I have to work them and run them through a chute or doctor them or check them for something, they're going to be a lot better because they're used to being around us and being worked by dogs. But
right.
Anyway, same with cattle. It's the same thing. So pretty cool. So, the trialing thing, when did you get into trialing? It sounded like you got into trialing like right from the beginning, a little bit with your first dog. Kind of, how has your trialing experience progressed?
Well, it has been at times a very bumpy road.
Yeah.
My very first trial with that old Flynn dog, I honestly, I thought I was going to throw up at the gate. I was a nervous wreck. And the trialing for me used to be about, and I'll be brave and say it, go out there with a barely trained started dog because dang it all, you can do this. They're kind of started. All you got to do is walk the course. And then you get out there and you know what a train wreck that can be.
Yeah.
And I for a while I was very much, I just wanted that prize at the end. I wanted that goal. I wanted that title or that leg or, whatever I was shooting for. And it got to a point where I realized that I wasn't really happy trialing anymore. And I wasn't happy with the way I was training and handling my dogs because I was missing all that good stuff that happens when you do it, what I'll say, the right way. When you're not focused on that end goal, but you're focused on the little goals, the little successes that build up and eventually get you to that, what you thought was the prize at the end. And so I think partly my dogs forced my thinking and my philosophy to change, because I could see how the things that I was doing weren't good for either one of us. They weren't working. My dogs weren't happy. I wasn't happy. And I actually took, and this was probably with Quinn, which is quite a few dogs back. I took probably a year or so where I didn't go to a lot of trials, and I just tried to figure out what I was doing and how I wanted to handle it going forward, because I knew I wanted to continue to go forward, and I knew I wanted to be more successful. But that couldn't be the only thing that I was looking at.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
No, it really does. Cause I did the same thing, you know, with my first dog. Well, not my first dog, but my first dog back, Harley. You know, it was just like, people were like, "Oh, you're ready to trial her. You're ready to trial her." And I was not ready to trial her. Her first started run consisted of 4 downs, one on each side of the arena. So anyway, I agree with you. It's the same. I kind of went through the same evolution as well. You know, at some point I'm like, wait, this is not working for me. This has got to be better. So did you ever seek out, like, how did you make that journey? Did you seek out clinics or instructors or mentors?
I did, you know, it's like I said, this area is kind of limited as to what's available. But I did start kind of going around, and I made the mistake one year of hitting a bunch of different clinics with a bunch of different clinicians, and that just made it worse.
Yeah.
That really muddied the waters for me. And thankfully, when I was doing this, the dog that I was doing it with was a very forgiving soul, because I changed the rules on him so many times.
Yeah.
If I had been him, I would have just flipped me off and gone and done something else, because, you know, it seemed like every time I went out to train, oh, now we're going to do it this way. Oh, shoot, that didn't work. So we go somewhere else and we see some new techniques, and now I come back. Now we're going to do it this way. And my dog's like, really?
Yeah.
What are we doing today?
I think there is a danger in, I call it clinic hopping and clinician hopping, you know, just trying to going to a whole bunch of different people. I think it's important when you're first starting out to stick with one person or a group of people that have the same philosophies and the same training habits, because eventually you may grow past that, or you may need some outside input, but you really have to pick one method and get good at it before you jump to another one or try and take a piece of another one and integrate it, you know, because if you go from this one to this one to this one, you're just confusing yourself. And I'm really glad you brought that up, because I see a lot of people do that. They just clinic hop, and you see them at every clinic and every other thing in it. And then they sort of don't always make progress because they're like, you got stuck in changing techniques a lot. So I always recommend you just find a mentor to start with. And then none of the methods are bad, right? All the methods can be used, and you just become really good at that one method. Then you can get to a point where you're like, okay, I can now start seeing other things to bring in to expand my skills. Would you agree with that?
Yes. And, you know, I've heard the same thing. I've heard people, you know, tell newcomers to the sport, you know, oh, just go to every clinic you can. Well, yes, if you're going to audit, but no, if you're going to work your dog.
Right.
But I think, you know, when you're in that transition phase, and I think going to audit isn't a bad thing. And I tell, you know, somebody got on my case once, oh, you didn't tell me so-and-so, you know, they went to a clinic and they didn't have success and they didn't like it. And they blamed me for not, in effect, bad-mouthing the clinician before they went. And that's something I won't do, because my philosophy is you can learn something from everybody. Sometimes what you learn is you don't want to do it that way.
Right.
And that's fine. But you have to be open enough to learn. And that's the other thing. I think sometimes some people get so set, and that's where I was for a while. I was so set in this old way that we did things. And, I kind of had blinders on for a little bit. And I think the more that I got out and, watched not local trials, but got outside of our area. And the more nationals I went to and actually sat and watched finals and watched the advanced runs, the more I shifted what I appreciated in a dog and what I wanted to see. And that helped me kind of angle to where I wanted to go and how I wanted to approach training.
Yeah, I agree with that. Seeing, because sometimes you get caught in your own little world, and it kind of seems like we all have our own little groups in our area. That's just how life is. And, you end up seeing everything around here that you may not be able to see something outside of your circle. And when you expose yourself to new ideas, it kind of just expands your abilities as a trainer to be able to visualize even something different. You don't even know what's possible until you go out there outside your world and go, oh my gosh, that's possible. I had no idea.
Right. Yep.
Yeah.
And even if it's not possible for you with whatever dogs you currently have, it's just more tools for your toolbox, because every dog is so different, and they all come with their own little quirks. The three I have now, I mean, Jig was my segue, back into the true working lines. And so I got a good education there. And then the next dog that I got, Dylan, he is so unlike any dog that I've ever had, that when I first started with him, I was, I'm still in my Jig mode. So I was going to start training him like Jig, and it's like hitting a wall and hitting a wall and hitting a wall. Finally, I was like, okay, something's got to change here, and it's got to be me, because we're not communicating right. And so, he was a whole new, got to take some different steps with him, learn some new stuff, approach things a little differently. And then in comes Finn, and, he too has different things. He's got a lot more eye than any dog I've ever had. So now I'm learning, okay, how do I deal with this eye dog? And now I love that. Now that's something that I just thrive on, is give me these challenges and let me try and figure out how, and go to the people that I trust and I admire and say, okay, this is what I'm dealing with. How do I, let's think my way through this. Where I think prior to that, when I was still kind of stuck in that old way of doing things, I wasn't as open to that. I always liked a dog who was a challenge, but man, they had to fit in a box when it came to training. And that wasn't fair to them.
Yeah. I think that ability to see that each individual dog's needs is just a huge opportunity for growth as a trainer. I have one like that too, Wyatt. Just nothing worked. Nothing that I was doing previously worked. And, you have to grow and you have to change and you have to go seek answers like you did. I love that. That's awesome. And it's if you're open to that as a person, it is such an amazing thing to have that bond with that dog that you created through that hard work and through figuring out what works for them and what works for you and what works for you together. It really strengthens your bond, and you can look back and just be really proud of the team effort that you put in to get to where you are.
Yeah. And then when you have those, even a little success, it means so much more.
Yeah.
Because it and that's one thing that, I like to stress to some of my friends who are kind of new to it and coming into it. And, people will make comments about if they see them at a trial and they have a run, and they'll make comments about the run. And it's like, you don't know that dog and that person's journey, and what you might think was not all that good might have been the world to them, just because of the journey they were on to get to that point. And I think too often we forget that.
Well, and comparing people to each other, comparison is a thief of joy for everybody involved. So it always is. And I'll tell you, I don't know if you have the same thing, but I love trialing because I'm very competitive and it's a sport and it's something that doesn't require my physical prowess per se, because I'm not very coordinated. A very uncoordinated person. You were, and I'll bring this memory back. It just occurred to me that you were at this trial. I have this memory. Most of my best memories of working my dogs are not at trials. They're at home doing something and the dog does something completely amazing and nobody's there to witness it but me and that dog. And I think that those are the moments, to me. Almost all my stories about my dogs happen, when it's just the two of us working something problem out and the dog's just figuring something out. So
yeah,
you were at the trial that snowed in, yes, this is a story. This isn't a funny, embarrassing story about trialing. You were at that trial where it was snowing at Purina Farms. Do you remember that? I think you were. And my pants fell down while we were trialing. I was wearing, it was cold because it was snowing and I had a heavy coat on and I wore jeans and then sweatpants over my jeans.
Oh,
and we're
no.
trialing ducks and it's big snow, a thick snow, beautiful snow. It was gorgeous. And all of a sudden it felt a little chillier on my rear. And I looked down and my sweatpants had fallen down. Not all my pants fell down, just my sweatpants had fallen down. And all my friends were laughing at me. And I thought it was pretty funny too. And the poor judge, she was so embarrassed for me because everybody was heckling me about it at the awards ceremony. And the poor judge was like, please don't make her embarrass her. Don't embarrass her like that. Anyway, you might not have been there because now I'm thinking it was hot when you were there.
Yeah, I don't think so. There was no snow when I was there.
Yeah.
But I'm sorry I missed that.
It was fun. Yeah. It doesn't bother me. It was funny.
Well, our dogs and trialing definitely keep us humble. If you can't handle embarrassment of any sort, then please don't walk into the trial arena.
Nope. And if you have a giant ego that you need these dogs to fulfill for you, they'll put you in your place pretty quick.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
I have almost, and I chuckled when you said that, trialing didn't demand any physical prowess, because I would beg to differ, especially where ducks were concerned, because I have more than once almost stepped on ducks and had to dance my way out of them.
Oh my goodness,
and I've also tripped over the the center pen, because they're kind of low in the duck arena.
Yeah.
Feet, my vision's way above that.
Yeah, I have had to dance around ducks before, and I thought the whole time thinking, if your dog hurts an animal, you have to pay for that animal. We all know that, right? So, that's rarely happens. And the whole time I'm trying not to step on these ducks for some reason. Usually ducks don't come around your feet, but these particular ones were sitting on my feet and under my feet, and the dog couldn't get them. I was having trouble getting them off my feet. And the whole time thinking, what happens if I step on a duck? Do I have to pay for it? Thinking, how many of these ducks can I avoid because they wouldn't get away from me?
Well, that was one of the first times I worked call ducks. I'm like, okay, you're going to be scraping one of these off the bottom of my shoe. They're tiny.
Yeah.
My foot's bigger than them.
I love call ducks because for those of you who don't know, call ducks are like miniature ducks. And I like them because, first of all, I don't eat as much. And they're hard. Your dog has to have some strength and power to move them and some finesse. It's totally a different duck situation. It's almost not like working a different total species almost to me, how different they are from the other ducks usually.
Yes. And if you have a dog that's not real thrilled about working ducks as it is, and they go into the take pen and you've got these 5 little miniature things and your dog just looks right over the top of them and says, well, I don't see anything in here. Our job must be done, and comes back out of the take pen.
Yeah, because some dogs don't see ducks. They just don't ever. Some working dogs just don't see them, so.
Now geese, on the other hand, are fun.
I've only worked them at one trial one time. I've thought about getting some, but they're really big, so.
I find them less offensive than ducks.
Really?
But they're a lot noisier. But I do like working them more than ducks. And I think part of that is because they'll take on a dog if you push them too hard.
Mm-hmm.
And, when you have a pushy dog, it's nice when the stock turns around and says, hey, back off, because they're not listening to me when I say, hey, back off.
Yeah, we ran him one time in New Mexico, and Harley had never seen him before. So I sent her on, I was like course B or something where there's a little outrun or whatever. So I send her out there and she's getting closer to him and she's looking at him like, what's this? And then one of them turns at her and waves and puts its arm or wings way out and then hisses at her. And she just about lost her mind. She's like, what's going on? It totally freaked her out for a second because she had never seen him before. So
I have a friend who had a mini Aussie. I know, gasp, but he was a cool little dog. He would work cattle, but we tended not to let him do that because we didn't want him getting killed. But the first time we put him, I had some huge Pomeranian gray saddleback geese, and we put Scully on him, and that poor dog, the goose attacked him, grabbed hold of him and started flapping its wings, and Scully was screaming, and that goose was not gonna let him down. So we laugh about it now, but I felt so bad for him.
Yes. I've actually had a duck grab hold of Harley's lips and wouldn't let it go one time.
Oh no.
Yeah. I had to peel the duck off of her, which has never happened before. So
it's a painful place to take a bite.
Yeah, she just grabbed her lip and Harley's looking at me like, can I kill it now? Oh, anyway, she was really good. She just stood there and waited for me to peel the duck right off of her.
What a good girl.
She was good. But then the rest of the run was messed up because that happened in the take pen. And then she thought all the ducks were going to kill her. So she went out there with her feet spread wide, like, they're going to get me. Where are they? So it's pretty funny. Pretty funny. So let's transition a little bit to your other things that you do in your life. I have had several authors on this podcast, and I wanted to, and Kathi is an author as well. So I wanted to talk to you about your writing a little bit.
Okay.
So talk to us about, so you have many books on your website. I was looking, you have several. I didn't count them actually, but there are a bunch of books there. So talk about the genre, how you got into that, and, you know, a little bit about your writing life.
All right. Well, I write fantasy for the most part, and I've just always been a fan. And I've always written as long as I can remember. I can remember writing as a kid. When I got my first typewriter, I just thought that was the coolest thing on the planet. My mom was a librarian, so I spent a lot of time in the library and reading and just jotting down all sorts of little stories and tried off and on to get things published, but I had never really finished anything, sat down and put the time into really finishing and polishing a book. I have a really hard time writing short stories. I start what I think is going to be a short story and it just takes off and wants to be a novel. So I have plenty of partially finished manuscripts sitting around. But when I published my first trilogy, boy, I don't even know how long ago that was. It was such a awesome thing to actually write a book in its entirety and be like, I did it, I'm done, I completed a whole novel, 90,000, 100,000 words later.
Yeah.
So I did a trilogy, and then Devin O'Branigan had asked me, I was in a group that she had online, and she liked what she saw of my writing. So she invited me to do a story based on one of her characters. She put together an anthology with a little bit more of background on some of her characters and invited 5 authors to join in on that. So that was kind of cool. And that was the one that wasn't strictly fantasy. It was more of an urban fantasy. It was based on her Witchblood novels. And then a couple other anthologies that I was in, and the latest novel, which is coming out on the 6th, also a fantasy, that was in the works for about going on 6 years.
Oh, wow.
And that's not including the time it took me to write it, but I decided when it was done, I liked it so much, and I farmed it out to about, probably 15 people in different demographics to read, to make sure that I wasn't just, kind of kennel blind with it.
Mm-hmm.
And they all liked it just as much. So I decided to try the traditional publishing route with it, which, for those who don't know, that means you submit it to either literary agents or publishing houses. And it did get pulled out of the slush pile at one of the bigger fantasy house names. And then it stalled and they couldn't make a decision on it. And they sat on it for just about 4 years total.
Oh, ouch.
And so
painful.
it was, because in that 4 years, I was kind of, I wanted to proceed with the second book in the series. And I felt that I couldn't because they were holding a manuscript that may or may not change. And so I didn't want to commit to the second one. And I found everything that I started then, I was like, but I want to be writing that other stuff.
Right.
So it kind of squashed me there for quite a few years. But now that one is, I took it back from the publisher and it will be out, like I said, next week, I believe. So now I'm feeling a little freer and my muse is much happier. So
yes. Well, congratulations on that book.
Thank you.
Did you know Devin O'Branigan was on our podcast? She has written a few books about Aussies or have Aussie characters in them.
Yes, she did. How did I miss that episode?
I don't know. You have to go back.
Now I'm going to have to go back and find it.
It was really good. I can't remember if it was one of the earlier ones. So, yeah, I did not realize that you two knew each other and that you guys worked together on the literary side. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a small world, an Aussie small world, and they all involve Australian Shepherds.
Yes, it is.
Center of the universe, correct?
Well, of course.
Center of our universe.
I have a cat in the room right now, so I'm going to have to rephrase that and say, no, cats are the center of the universe. But we all know that's not right.
No. Yeah, cats think they're the center of the universe. Cool. So with your books, you self-publish?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Yeah, that's awesome. I think that's becoming more and more common nowadays with authors, self-publishing and having some control, because, once you get into those agents and publishing houses, you kind of sometimes lose control of your manuscript, and
you lose a lot of control. And back when I first got into self-publishing, I was real reluctant to do so because it had a lot of stigmas attached to it, because basically anybody and their uncle could, publish a book, and that didn't mean it was any good. So there were a lot of years in the early years of the indie world and self-publishing where people would look down on books that were self-published because obviously they were inferior.
Yeah.
Which was a fallacy, but
right.
When you flood the market, that tends to happen. The best analogy I have for traditional publishing route is kind of like a confirmation show. You send your manuscript to an agent or a publishing house, and you're in the ring with all these other manuscripts. And on any given day, somebody's mood or somebody's whatever is going to influence their decision.
Mm-hmm.
And they're gonna pick somebody else's manuscript. Just like in confirmation, you go out there with a beautiful looking dog, and the judge that day is going to be like, no, don't like that one, I like that one. So it's very difficult to even get into that world. And then, like you said, when you're in there, you lose so much control.
Yeah.
You don't have a lot of say in the cover. You don't have a lot of say in how it's marketed. They can ask you to make changes that really kind of change the whole story as you saw it. So for a control freak like me, I think the indie publishing route is really the best fit.
Well, and I think maybe not the word, I don't know, control freak, but your voice as an author is truer. You have it's your voice. When you read it, when you get an indie published book, that is a purely, truly that's the voice of that author, and nothing has been changed or altered. That's how I see it anyway.
Oh, that's really cool. I like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
A good way of looking at it.
Yeah, I think when you give up, you have to give up as an author. When you go to a publishing house, you have to give up a lot, and you have to be willing to sacrifice the soul of your book, in your opinion, because authors and artists, we're always very clear about our vision, and it's coming from, our creativity, but they have to make it look good to the public and fluff it up. So it is kind of like confirmation dog, where you put all the hairspray and the fluff on it, and it's not necessarily the true appearance of that dog.
And I think the other difference too is that you kind of touched a little bit on it there. It's the traditional route has to play to the market.
Mm-hmm.
They have to put out there what they think is selling right now, what they think is popular, because they're investing a ton of money and a ton of time into that. And so it has to be something that's in with the current, what they see as the current trends, where you don't have that constraint as a self-published author. You can buck the trends all you want.
Right. Cool. I like it. I really appreciate it. This has been a great conversation. I'm really glad to have had you on here. So with your Aussies, where can people, you also have, and I'll tell you this, guys, Kathi has a really cool blog as well. It's Shadowland Aussies, right?
Shadow Dance
Aussies is where you can find her blog. And she has really neat pictures and stories of her dogs working, which is one of the reasons that I had you on the show, because I loved your perspective on your blog. And then also, and I'll put these links into the show notes on the website, theinstinctiveaussie.com. So you can check that out. Also, you have a fantasy author page as well, klschwengel.com.
Yes.
And you can get to that from the Aussie page as well. That's how I found it. So you can check out our books, especially if you are a fantasy author. And if you would like to support an independent author and Australian Shepherd fancier, this would be a good way to do it. So do they buy the books from your page, or do they buy them from Amazon, or where do they go?
If they're looking for ebooks, they can buy them anywhere ebooks are published, basically. So Amazon, Apple, Kobo, whatever all the venues are. The paperback, they can, if they would like a signed paperback, they can purchase it directly from me. I don't have the link up on the site yet because I'm just signed off on the proof yesterday. So, but that will be coming up, and it will be available on Amazon as well. Not signed.
Well, and I think we didn't even mention the name of the book. It's Bound in Shadow.
Yes.
Correct. Is this part of a series, or is this a standalone, or the first part of a series?
It is the first book in a series.
Okay. So it would be a good place to start. And then also check out the rest of the books that she has on her website as well. There are a whole bunch of there. What is it, 6 or 7, or how many? I didn't scroll through.
Oh boy,
3, it's more than 4, that.
5, 6. I think 6 or 7.
Yeah, cool. Awesome. I really enjoyed having you on the show today and talking to you. So I really appreciate it.
Well, thank you, Jackie. It was fun.
Hey, and that's the show today. Thanks for joining me. I hope you really enjoyed it and got to learn something about this amazing breed, the Australian Shepherd. Join us on Facebook. We have a private group called the Instinctive Australian Shepherd. Join the group and join the conversation there. You can also find us online at theinstinctiveaussie.com. That's where you'll find all the show notes, the links to anything we talked about this show, and all of our past episodes. Subscribe to this podcast on iTunes, Spotify, or wherever else you find your favorite podcasts, and that way you'll be the first ones to know as soon as an episode is uploaded. All right, everyone, I'll see you down the road.